And then here's just another portrait of me giving any opportunity to speak about my cat. I will talk for hours. Welcome back to a wonderful review of Wonderful Precure. And today we start out with a Mayu episode. This was a little too relatable. I actually did stuff like this when I was a kid, like whenever I had to do a speech for class, I get super nervous and I'm like, I'll write out what I'm saying. That way I don't make a fool of myself. And it goes just about as well as Mayu's example did. Poor little cutie trying her best out here. Oh my god, a little too relatable. I also want to kind of cosplay this moment, like, this looks very much like me! Also, I want to take a moment to appreciate her slippers right here, because look at this little green heart slippers! Are these not the cutest? Like, you know, I could go for up here, they're so cute. And here the green actually kind of feels like it's green. And of course, what could be more relatable than being like, I'm nervous and life is falling apart, let me just snuggle my beebins to death. Ah, this me, my cat. Ugh, I kind of want to snuggle my cat right now. It's the duality we have going on here, which brings up our topic of the day, which is going to school for the first time. And we have Komugi once again reaffirming, she's like, listen, I unlocked the ability to turn into a human. That means I get school, aka more Iroha time. And Iroha is like, no. And when we get to school, I'm kind of confused about what we have. Like, is Satoru sitting here, like, reading and nervously checking over, waiting for, like, Iroha to walk in? Or is he like one of those characters who's like, I study a lot, but I'm either A, socially awkward, or B, I don't like all these people making all this noise while I'm trying to study. I think he's just waiting for Iroha and he's like really nervous being like, is she in my class? Which, I don't know if in like Japan it just comes down to like people showing up to class and you knowing who's there. I got rosters when I was little, so I don't know if like, they just like, do they not know? Like, I feel like you could look that up. I feel like you probably know by this point who's in what class, but it is what it is. But luckily they are in class together. Satoru appearing more nervous than usual, which I will say that's one of the things about him, is that they're definitely maybe struggling a little bit with balancing it between, like, he's, you know, nervous around Iroha, he has feelings for her, but then, like, he's really put together in other scenes. So his crush, like, comes up in very selective times. But for the most part, he's happy Iroha's there. I thought it was really funny. He's like, I did it. Nailed that. I'm gonna give it my all. Only for her to throw him off. I also like that, like, the little goofy eye that they keep doing is consistent for this episode. I think they've done it a couple times this season. They'll have, like, different eyes that they've been using as jokes. I like this one. I like the I love that one. Of course, Mayu going in for her introduction to join the Precure Introduction Hall of Fame. She's in the nervous category. Relatable. And then we're back on my little dorky eye, where she immediately messes up her introduction. I do like that it felt unique from the other, like, nervous character introductions we've had before, because her, like, bit is that she, like, overthinks things in almost a more serious way. Like, other characters comically will overthink things. They'll be like, what if I trip and the world explodes? But she's more reasonable in her, like, rationale of being nervous. She's like, oh my god, I'm gonna mess up, I'm not gonna do it right. And then kind of dorkifies it. I like that. I like that they keep it fresh, because I feel like it's easy to be like, yeah, the character was nervous, but, like, have a specific flavor of what nervous they have. And then, of course, like, the turmoil of messing up, like, been there, done that, girl. I know how that feels. I think they really captured it. I think the swirly eyes too. But she gets the save from Iroha, which I really appreciate. Like, that's again, I've said it before, I like the level of perception our characters have this season. It's refreshing, because I'm super used to the characters all being, like, in anime in general, just tend to be dense. Like, just so much denseness, and that's how we have, like, the unwielding amount of miscommunication trope utilized. I like that Iroha, to a degree, is like, oh, it's Mayu, like, I'll help Mayu out, and I, you know, basically saves the day for Mayu, and then brings up the cat. And then here's just another portrait of me giving any opportunity to speak about my cat. I will talk for hours, to the point where most people tell me I need to stop. So, relatable. And it's nice to see them get along. I actually really like that we spent a couple episodes prior to school to establish somewhat of a relationship between these two people. We have this basis going into school. We already have the support, because I think traditionally a lot of seasons will just have it start on the first day of school. I'm glad we've moved away from that, just to mix it up a little bit. We already have like these established relationships, established support between the characters. It's just very nice. I also like our class. Our class has quite, we have like pretty distinct designs between characters. Typically the cast tends to have like one or two characters that are amorphous blah, but all these characters seem to have like somewhat memorable designs. I feel like they're working a little bit harder on our background characters. Also, you can see it here. The female characters, or more specifically the female students, have two dress options. You can either wear a skirt or you can wear shorts. It's small, but I love this detail. We stand the progress. And then over in Animal World, we have a couple things going on. We've got Komugi, who's ultimately, in her infinite impatience, decides to go out and try to find Iroha School, which might be difficult to find without having directions. I did forget that in Japan they have like little signage written on the ground to be like, this is the direction for school for all the kids who are walking to school, because I forget it's much more common for kids to walk to school. Not so much a thing here where you live very far away from your school. But they do have the directions for it, so she could have figured it out. But also, I'm under the impression that Komugi can't read, which, given the next couple episodes, it's going to be interesting to see how we resolve that, but I'll talk about that later. She is distracted by, like, every smell under the sun, ultimately leading into her running into Yuki, which I can't remember how many times she's actually interacted with Yuki in dog form. She's mostly interacted with Yuki in her human form. We see pretty much, like, the established relationship of Komugi being immune to Yuki not liking her, which is great, because in terms of like fighting like cats and dogs and any kind of like conflict between them, it feels like it's going to be much more one-sided instead of like Yuki being mad at Komugi and Komugi being mad at Yuki, because it seems like Komugi is completely and utterly immune to any malintent from Yuki, which I'll take a one-sided fight. Also, poor Yuki, like, this whole episode has just been at the whim of everybody else, so it's going to be so interesting to see when Yuki has, like, the ability to talk and interact in a human form, what her established relationship is going to be with everybody moving forward. I wonder if in human form she's also gonna get, like, hugged intensely by Mayu, as well as Komugi, and she's just like, ugh, people. This is like a small snippet where I think they're trying to talk about like the puns at school. So the school is Wanyan Chu, or Wanyan Elementary, I suppose. And it's like Wan being like bark and Nya being like meow, so it's like bark meow school. And then they're in class that's essentially meow bark. But I also think it's a number pun, as we see here, because like Wan sounds like one. And Nya, I think, is supposed to be like me, which is 2. So they're at like 1-2 school, but they're in class 2-1. It's a fun little play on words that I don't know if I remotely explained this properly. But if anybody was curious what this was, I believe that is the gist of what was being explained here. We also learn that Satoru is in the biology club, which makes sense for him. I don't see any other members of the biology club, but, you know, good for this guy, living his best life. He's much more calm here, and we also can see like the 3 of them semi-interact with one another, which again, I like that we have this established group already. And this is without the pets, which I feel like adds, like, at the end of the day, we do have 6 characters total for the like our main cast that we know of now, with Daifuku kind of being the least relevant or the least prominent one. But we do have like a sizable cast. Like normally seasons with 6 characters kind of struggle to make sure all the characters are relevant, but this has done a fantastic job at having like Daifuku, Yuki, Komugi, Iroha, Satoru, and Mayu all just like feel like they're here, feel like they have interactions with each other. I think the only one we've like, Daifuku has not interacted with everybody for the most part. Yuki has almost interacted with most people. Like, I feel like we're starting to really vibe the group together, which I think is the hardest thing when you have a chunkier cast, but the way that they've set this up this season I think is way better, and it's why I'm also like, not only do I really want like Satoru and Daifuku to be mid-seasons, but I also don't want there to be more characters, if you know what I mean. We have a pretty large cast when you think about it compared to other seasons, compared to last season. We have a larger cast. I don't really want it to get bigger. I feel like if we add another character on top of what we already have, I think this season's gonna just have too many characters and kind of fall apart. But it also looks like we won't have a mid-season for quite a while. We probably won't get one until, like, August at this, like, for current predictions. We'll see what happens. But again, like, more reason why I think we should just stick with Satoru and Daifuku. And I also hope it's both of them. We also have the, we established this, which is, I like the kind of drip storytelling we have here, where Yuki knows that Komugi can turn into a human, which is going to be all the more build for, I believe Yuki is going to become a cure before Mayu does? Which I was wondering how they were going to do that. I was wondering how they were going to lead into that, because it feels like we spent more time on Mayu than we have Yuki. But I think this is really good setup for Yuki being like, wait, I can turn into a human? Like, Komugi's just doing this? I want to be a human. I went in on the action. We still don't have Yuki speaking in this episode, which she could have. Technically speaking, we know Komugi can understand other animals. I think this is really good setup for Yuki becoming more relevant in the next few episodes. Probably not next one, though. On the horizon. I also love that Komugi, I love that she's like, let's go, transformation time, and Iroha's like, Miss Ma'am, no. No, we gotta go hide in the bush if we're gonna do that. We have to make sure that we properly set this up. We also get the closest thing to a dual transformation. I know a lot of people were hoping that there would be like a different animation for both of them transforming. I don't think we're going to have that until we have a season with a true duo, like Mahotsukai did, which obviously it's been a hot minute since Mahotsukai. But I do like that we have this one new bit of animation at the end with the two of them like swirling together, and I love this pose. I feel like some seasons have really bad poses. This one has a really solid pose. I think it's cool. And also this is a very dog themed final pose, which makes a lot of us wonder if the other finishing poses might not be a full team one. It might just stick with duos, but we do have room in this shot for 2 characters on the side. We'll see. In terms of the battle today, battles this season, I just kind of, at this point, have given up on them being, like, particularly entertaining or good. The ice skating stuff, I think, was a little bit fun for a while there, but the chase sequences are just really not for me. I did like the lion power-up. Finally done with that stupid penguin one. It was ugly. I'll take the lion. I think it's cute. I do think it's interesting that they're like, lions are the fastest animal. That's their power up. And I was like, surprised they didn't go for like the cheetah, but to each their own. It was, the one thing that was funny in the battle was mid-battle. Iroha was like, I think that might be a horse. Miss Ma'am, we have 2 eyes. I know that horses may not be common, and maybe I'm just sitting here being like, I grew up with horses out my window, but if I saw something that was shaped like a kangaroo, and I don't have kangaroos around on the daily, I'd be like, that's a kangaroo. Miss Ma'am, what do you mean you think it's a horse? It's a horse! That is a horse! Well, actually, well, technically speaking, I guess you could make the argument that it must be like a miniature horse? Because it's definitely under 14 hands, so it should have been a pony, but there are miniature horses. I'm revealing too much that I was a horse girl growing up. I like the horse design. And all as well. Also, Satoru kind of disappeared. Normally, he gives us a little factoid mid-battle. The second they transformed, Satoru is gone. Where did he go? But we seamlessly set up the next episode where Komugi's like, I had so much fun showing up at school. I'm gonna do that again. And Iroha's like, that's not how that works. And again, on top of the perception, Satoru's like, wow, it looks like Komugi might be upsetty spaghetti about this. Because to sort of moderately spoil the next episode if you have not read the summaries, they are going to school next. Like, Komugi is actually going to be able to go to school. And since the top of the season, I'm like, how are we pulling that off? According to the summaries, we're going to get some pretty heavy lifting from the gym in the Nico Garden, which, I mean, imagine that parent-teacher conference. You're like, oh, yes, your child Komugi is enrolling at school, and there's just a big stone that glows sitting across me at the table. But I wonder if, like, maybe Satoru notices the concern and brings it up with Meimei since he's close to Meimei, and then, like, the crystal. I'm wondering how that's gonna, like, all unfold. I also think that there's a huge educational gap when you are a dog. I think her reading comprehension, or just being literate at all, might be a concern. So this gym is gonna need to do some heavy lifting to make it make sense. Like, I feel like last season really did a good job at coming up with decent explanations, or like had the proper material set in place to explain like why Sora was able to go to school in a dimension not her own. because they had Yo-Yo, the grandma character who was able to like sit there and do the paperwork for school. This season they're getting real goofy silly with this gym that's about to make all our problems go away. But that aside, it was overall a solid episode. I think it did a lot of good establishing. We don't have too much plot in terms of this episode, but I think there's so much good setup. We see a payoff for Mayu, we see setup for Yuki, we see a little bit of setup for Satoru and Kumugi. Next episode I think is also going to be in that category of just being more setup. We're just going to showcase Kumugi in school. Overall, the pacing of the season seems pretty solid to me. I'm still not a huge fan of the fights, but it is what it is. I'm trying to as I keep bringing it up too often, I'm like trying to come to terms with it, trying to accept that that's the way things gonna be. But overall, I'm enjoying the season. I think it's fun. Oh, I also wanted to geek out for one quick second. Something that other seasons have done differently, design-wise, has been the bloom effect, which is a V effect, which is this kind of glowy glow that is happening here, specifically on like those streaks of light on her hair and everything, and the overall scene has a bit of a glow to it. Other seasons, I have been very displeased with how they handle it. I'm gonna rag on Happiness Charge for like a hot second because I don't like them having this very unsharp glow on all the characters. It's always been something that bothered me, especially when it came after Smile Precure, which I think had a really, really good usage of glow and jewel tones. I'm glad to see this season bringing back the glow and doing it in a way where they combine both soft glow as well as hard lines. I like this approach, but also I liked it when they did it in Delicious Party and it's the same person. So just wanted to comment that I like the imagery. I think some of these shots can be really, really, really pretty in this season. But that's all for me, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!